Story 1. A sinister night deep within the marshland. I had never once entertained the notion that the marsh could speak until that fateful night when the rain unveiled an eerie new dialect. It was a night unlike any I had ever experienced, one where the storm didn't merely fall from the heavens, it descended with a crushing weight, as if it were a hand pressing down over the mouth of the world, silencing all but the most primal sounds of nature. Alone on the dilapidated boardwalk, I found myself equipped only with a voice recorder tucked into my pocket, a small light strapped to my chest, and the unsettling sensation of a familiar voice echoing in my earphones, whispering my name in a tone that was unmistakably my own. As someone who juggles various environmental jobs in between my journalism assignments, ranging from wildlife surveys to acoustic studies, anything that could provide a paycheck, I had ventured out to this isolated marshland 3 hours away from town, driven by the promise of capturing the elusive sounds of nature. The marsh itself was a dark bowl of black water, intricately stitched with narrow, weathered wooden paths that seemed to lead into the unknown, beckoning the curious and the foolhardy alike. My task for the evening was straightforward: to log the calls of frogs and the sounds of rainfall, nothing more. However, as the weather shifted unexpectedly, the air around me became thick with the scent of rust and damp leaves, an omen of the strange events that were about to unfold. As I stepped onto this boardwalk, glistening green and slick with moisture, a sense of foreboding washed over me. I clipped my recorder to a post and began to speak into it, documenting the sounds around me. It was then that I heard it, a whisper rising from the reeds, soft yet precise, echoing my name in a way that felt both haunting and intimate. I tried to convince myself that it was merely the call of a bird or the trick of an echo, but deep down, I knew that the sound was aware of me, as if it belonged to something that knew my very essence. Deeper into the marsh, I stumbled upon a weathered sign that read "No trespassing," with red letters that seemed to bleed down the wood, a warning that I chose to ignore. As I pressed onward, I noticed a white boot floating near a wooden piling, its twin resting carefully on a rail ahead, as if someone had intended to return at any moment. My grandfather had always warned me that the marsh keeps what you fail to watch closely, and I soon discovered he was right when I encountered the second boot, eerily adrift in the water. In a flash of lightning, I caught a glimpse of something beneath the surface of the water, a faint shape resembling a face that vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving me breathless and bewildered. The storm intensified, and the boardwalk forked ahead of me. To my dismay, I realized my printed map was missing, leaving me to guess my way through the darkness. I hesitantly chose the left path, which narrowed and creaked beneath my weight, each footstep echoing back to me with a hollow note that felt unsettling. Then, out of the darkness, I saw them, 4 blue orbs hovering low over the water, steady and deliberate in their movements. They glided in a line, paused momentarily, and then folded back into the inky blackness. My instincts urged me to turn off my headlamp, and as I did, I could feel the night pulse around me, alive with a presence I could not name. As I pressed down on a plank, it lifted beneath my foot, as if something unseen was breathing beneath it. I pressed down again, but it rose once more, and the water below exhaled as if it were alive. Upon reaching the observation shack, the rain drummed against its tin roof like impatient fingers tapping for attention. Inside, the air was thick with the musty scent of damp pages and iron. Carvings on the benches warned, "Do not stay after dark," an admonition that felt all too real. A child's yellow raincoat hung on a nail, its sleeves turned inside out as if it had been hastily discarded. In the corner, a wash tub held a half-rotted mask, its grin disturbingly wide. I set my recorder down, my heart racing, and that was when I heard it, the breath behind me. A man stood in the doorway, thin and soaked to the skin, his eyes glimmering like dark glass. "You ain't supposed to be here," he stated, his voice carrying the weight of the storm itself. I stammered out an explanation, claiming I was conducting a sound study and that I would leave before dawn. He leaned in closer and asked, "You hear it say your name yet?" My tongue felt heavy and unresponsive as I struggled to find my voice. He smiled, a small, disconcerting smile. "If it does, don't answer," he warned, his expression turning grave. He recounted the tale of a boy who had wandered off the boards one fateful May evening, believing the emerald expanse to be solid ground. "He ain't finished going," he said, his tone heavy with sorrow. "His mother calls him in the rain. The marsh likes that sound." A crack of thunder split the sky, and when I blinked, the man was gone, as if the rain had swallowed him whole. Hesitantly, I stepped outside, and the boardwalk groaned beneath me, an old, weary sound that echoed the weight of my unease. From across the reeds, a woman's voice floated up, a soft, pleading melody that called my name once more, drawn out like a lullaby. My head turned involuntarily, despite my best efforts to resist. There she was, walking barefoot along a parallel path, her palms open, hair slicked to her scalp, an ethereal figure in the storm. "Eli," she called, her voice dripping with an otherworldly allure. I kept my mouth shut, recalling the man's warning, but I could not tear my gaze away. She glided past a gap in the marsh and vanished into the shadows. When I returned to the fork in the path, I was dismayed to find that the left branch I had taken no longer existed. Only jagged posts jutted from the water like broken ribs, remnants of a path that had been swallowed by the marsh. I chose the right path and began counting my steps, 30, then 40, until, without warning, one plank slid gently away beneath me. I managed to catch the rail, splinters biting into my palm as the marsh seemed to learn my stride, adapting to my every move. Ahead, a faint yellow glow beckoned, resembling a flashlight beam, steady and human-like. Yet it moved without a discernible hand, floating, pausing, gliding sideways as if it were alive. I quickly extinguished my own light, watching as the glow thinned and bled away into the darkness. The thunder grew quieter, more contemplative, as if the storm itself was pondering my fate. At the next bend, I was confronted by an unsettling sight. The bridge had vanished, replaced by slick, dark stepping stones that jutted ominously from the water. When I touched the first stone, it felt like wet leather, yielding under my weight. The second stone shifted as if it were alive, and by the fifth, warmth spread through it and into my boots, an inviting sensation that was both comforting and alarming. Despite my instincts screaming at me to turn back, I crossed anyway. On the far side, hidden beneath low myrtles, the man awaited me once more. "You came the wrong way," he said, his voice laced with a knowing edge. I pleaded with him, desperate to find a way out. "Then you got to leave the name behind," he replied, stepping aside to reveal a narrow crawl space choked with roots and mud. "Go on your belly, don't bite the water," he warned, his expression unreadable. With no other option, I slid into the tunnel, the mud pressing against my chest as roots brushed my face like damp hair. The earth beneath me breathed slow and shallow, an unsettling rhythm that matched my racing heart. Midway through the tunnel, I felt something stir below my ribs, a heavy movement that did not belong to me, and I wriggled forward, desperate to reach the end. Finally, the passage opened into a shallow basin filled with sunken boats, their hulls jutting out like the bones of some long-forgotten creature. The nearest vessel bore the name Viola May, its identity half erased by algae. Beyond the wrecks I spotted lights, warm, rectangular, and impossibly close, the visitor center, a sanctuary of safety. I climbed through the flooded remains of the boats until I reached the deck of the visitor center. my heart pounding in my chest. The storm had softened to a mere drizzle as I opened my recorder, eager to review what I had captured. It had recorded everything: the relentless rain, the sound of my own breathing, the man's voice, and the whispers that lingered beneath the water. But beneath it all, another layer emerged, a chorus of voices whispering in rhythm. "He's not looking. Mouth soft. Leave the name." My hand trembled as I stopped the playback, the weight of the words sinking in. The glass door of this visitor center reflected my face, pale, drenched, and exhausted. But then something unsettling happened. The reflection spoke first, my lips remaining sealed. "Eli," it said, a chilling flatness in its tone. "Open." Behind me, something heavy rose from the depths of the marsh, shedding water as it stood, a silhouette formed from nightmares. I didn't dare turn around. Instead, I opened the door and stepped into the stale, fluorescent light of the visitor center. The storm followed me inside, quiet now, obedient, because it had learned my name from my own mouth, a secret now shared with the depths of the marsh. Story 2. The Room That Hummed Beneath the Rain. I moved into a small basement apartment beneath an old building on the edge of the city, a space that had once served as a laundry room before the landlord decided to repurpose it into individual units. The scent of dampness and nostalgia lingered in the air, always faintly reminiscent of rain, even when the sky was clear and the sun shone brightly. At first I found the place charming, quiet, cool, and refreshingly cheap. But when the storms rolled in, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The lights flickered ominously, the walls trembled as if they were alive, and from the vent near my ceiling, I began to hear a low, unsettling hum. This was not the kind of hum produced by a washing machine or an air conditioning unit. No, this sound had a rhythm, a breath, like someone whispering through the pipes, secrets that were not meant for my ears. I told myself it was merely the plumbing acting up, but it would cease the moment I moved, as though it were aware of my presence and wished to keep its secrets hidden. The first night it happened, I lay awake, straining to listen. The sound seemed to echo my heartbeat, growing louder and more insistent in the stillness of the night. When I finally mustered the courage to get up and investigate, the noise stopped altogether, as if it knew I was listening intently. The next day, curiosity gnawed at me, and I decided to ask my neighbor, Rakesh, about it. He was an older gentleman, quiet and polite, who opened his door just a crack to speak. "You hear it too?" he whispered, his voice carrying a hint of urgency. The sound seemed to crawl through the hallway between us, low and wet, vibrating in the walls like a living thing. I told him I thought it came from his side, but he shook his head. "It comes from below," he stated, his expression grave. I laughed, dismissing the idea, saying there's no basement beneath us. He just looked at me, half warning, half pity, and then closed the door, leaving me to ponder the implications of his words. That night, sleep eluded me. Around 3 in the morning, a steady drip began above my bed. The leak was not clear. It was a thick, brown substance that carried a metallic smell, reminiscent of old coins and forgotten memories. I quickly grabbed a bowl and placed it beneath the leak, trying to ignore the strange occurrence. However, when I woke an hour later, the bowl was inexplicably empty, and the floor was damp beneath me. It felt as if someone or something had emptied it, leaving me with an unsettling sense of dread. As the hours passed, the hum returned, deeper and louder, pulsing through the mattress like a heartbeat, intertwining with my own. I pressed my ear against the wall, and in that dense vibration, I thought I heard words, 2 faint syllables that sounded disturbingly like "come down." I froze, my heart racing at the implication. Then, just as quickly, the sound stopped again, leaving me in a thick silence that felt suffocating. 2 nights later, I noticed that Rakesh's door was locked, but fresh scratches marred the wood around the handle. as if someone had tried to pry it open in a panic. The hum never left now. It became an omnipresent part of the air, vibrating through the floorboards, the pipes, even the glass of my picture frame. When the landlord came by to collect rent, I mentioned the strange sound. He frowned and said the lower level had been sealed off years ago. That night, unable to shake my curiosity, I moved my bed aside, determined to locate the source of the hum. The sound was strongest against one particular spot on the floor. Pulling back the carpet, I discovered a faint square outline, sealed with rusted screws. My heart raced as I grabbed a screwdriver, adrenaline coursing through my veins. When I finally loosened the last screw, a chill rushed out like a sigh, carrying with it the smell of damp metal and stagnant water. Before I could think twice, I found myself staring down a ladder that descended into darkness. The hum changed pitch, growing sharper, as if something below had realized it had been found. I told myself I'd just take a quick look, but before I knew it, I was climbing down. My flashlight beam revealed walls slick with condensation, the air thick with moisture, and I stood ankle-deep in murky water. This was no maintenance tunnel. It was a brick corridor, hand-laid, curving into the unknown. The hum was clearer here, layered, like multiple voices pressed together, beckoning me to follow. I took a few cautious steps, drawn deeper into this passage, until it widened into a flooded room filled with half-submerged washing machines. Their lids were open, some with scraps of clothing floating inside, remnants of lives once lived. But the hum came from the center, a large, circular drain, its grate pulsing gently up and down as if it were breathing. I crouched down, my light trembling in my grip as the sound filled my skull, drowning out all rational thought. Just then, I heard something creak behind me. I turned, and to my horror, one of the washing machines rocked slightly, water spilling over the side. Inside it, a pale face stared up through the murky water, eyes closed, lips moving soundlessly. It wasn't floating, it was fixed there, as if part of it was caught beneath the machine, trapped in a watery prison. My breath caught in my throat, and I turned the flashlight toward the wall, only to have my stomach drop. Faces, dozens of them, were pressed into the wet bricks, eyes half open, mouths vibrating in rhythm with the hum. They weren't carved or painted. They were real, their skin the same color as the wall, merging with the dampness. The hum was their voices, hundreds whispering together through the stone, a chorus of the lost. Then the drain in the middle gasped, an actual, wet, sucking sound, and all the faces turned toward me, their eyes wide with an unspoken plea. The hum coalesced into one clear word: stay. Panic surged through me, and I ran. Water sloshed around my knees, cold hands brushing against my legs, fingers curling weakly as if to hold me back. I climbed the ladder with frantic urgency, heart hammering in my chest, the sound below growing frantic and desperate. Just as I slammed the hatch shut, something struck it hard from beneath, a violent thud that sent shivers down my spine. I pushed the carpet back over it and sat shaking until the first light of dawn broke the darkness. The rain outside didn't stop for 3 days. When it finally did, Rakesh was gone. The landlord informed me he had moved out overnight, leaving no forwarding address. I sealed the hatch with duct tape and stacked furniture on top of it, but the hum returned at night, soft, steady, and patient, as if it were waiting for me. A maintenance worker came once to check the plumbing. I warned him about the sound, but he smiled dismissively. "There aren't any pipes under this floor anymore," he said, tapping his wrench 3 times on the tiles. From below, something tapped back, a response that sent a chill through my bones. Weeks later, while rummaging through a drawer, I stumbled upon one of my old sound recorders, and a wave of dread washed over me. It had been running the entire night I went down there, With trembling hands I played it back. The audio captured the rain, static, my breathing, and then, faint beneath it all, the hum, constant, growing, building. And then, one voice rose above the rest, saying my name, then another, and another, until 100 voices whispered it together, a chilling cacophony that echoed through my mind. The recording ended with 3 soft knocks, and to my horror, my own voice answered back, "Come down."